Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Jason watched Rachel from across the table. The restaurant was cozy, and the soft lighting set the perfect atmosphere for a romantic evening, but he knew something was off. It wasn't recent. Things hadn't been the same for a while. She no longer looked at him with the same intensity, her smile wasn't as genuine, and now, right there in front of him, she barely seemed to notice he was there. She was there physically, but her mind was somewhere else, or, more specifically, in another conversation. Her phone, always at hand, buzzed every few minutes. Jason fiddled with his napkin, waiting for her to look at him at some point, to bring up some topic, anything. But all he saw was Rachel leaning over her screen, typing quickly and precisely. Then it happened. A smile. Not just any smile. Not the polite one she gave strangers or the automatic one she used when she agreed without really listening. It was a genuine smile. A smile that lit up her face. Jason felt a tightness in his chest. "What's going on?" he asked, trying to keep his voice light but firm. Rachel looked up, as if she just remembered he was there. "What? On your phone? What's so funny?" She sighed and put the phone down on the table, screen facing down. "Oh, it's Megan. It's her birthday, and I'm helping with the party plans." Jason nodded slowly. "Interesting. And where's this party going to be?" Rachel picked up her fork, cut a piece of salmon on her plate, and answered like it was no big deal. "At Eric's place." For a moment, time stopped. Eric. Her ex-husband. Jason leaned forward slightly. "At Eric's place?" Rachel nodded, without looking up from her plate. "Yeah, he has a huge backyard with enough space for everyone." Megan thought it would be perfect. Jason laced his fingers together on the table, feeling a surge of frustration building inside him. "Don't you think that's a little weird?" Rachel finally raised her eyes, and her expression was full of impatience. "Weird why?" "Eric and I broke up years ago, Jason." "It doesn't mean anything." He let out a dry, disbelieving laugh. "Rachel, we're talking about your ex-husband. The man you spent years of your life with. Do you really think there's nothing wrong with spending the night at his place, drinking, celebrating?" She set her utensils down on the plate with a small clatter. "Oh my God, Jason, it's just a party. I'm not going there to rekindle anything. I'm going because my best friend chose the place." He shook his head, folding his arms. "Did you even stop to think how I might feel about this?" Rachel let out a short, humorless laugh. "You're overreacting." Jason felt his stomach churn. Overreacting. It was always the same, right? Whenever he tried to talk about how he felt, she brushed it off. She always turned his concerns into his problem, never hers. He took a deep breath, keeping his tone calm. "If you go, Rachel, it means you're choosing that over our marriage." She frowned, like she couldn't believe what she'd just heard. "Are you giving me an ultimatum?" Jason kept his gaze steady. "I'm telling you what it means to me." Rachel picked up her phone from the table and leaned back in her chair. Her face no longer showed irritation or surprise. Now there was something else. Something colder. "Jason. I'm not going to change my plans." That sentence hit him like a punch to the chest. She went back to messing with her phone, like the conversation was over. Like her decision was already made. Jason sat there, looking at her. At the woman he shared a life with, but who, at that moment, felt like a stranger. That's when he realized. Maybe Rachel had made that choice a while ago. He was just now noticing. Jason felt his stomach churn again. He was still trying to wrap his mind around the idea of her spending the night at her ex-husband's place, so he decided to ask, "When is this party?" Still distracted by her phone, Rachel answered casually, "Tonight." Actually, in a little while. Jason blinked a few times. A chill ran down his spine. In a little while? Rachel finally looked up, as if only then realizing how surprised he was. Yes. He felt a wave of irritation rising in his chest, but he forced his voice to stay as calm as possible. And when were you going to tell me? Rachel pressed her lips together, as if she was deciding whether that question even deserved an answer. I'm telling you now. I don't know, Jason let out an incredulous laugh, leaning forward on his elbows. Now. I don't know. She rolled her eyes and went back to her phone. Jason, stop it, okay, so you're not going to invite me? Rachel froze mid-scroll. She took a deep breath and placed the phone on the table. I thought you wouldn't be comfortable at Eric's house. He tilted his head slightly, studying her expression. See? That's it. If you think I'd be uncomfortable, you shouldn't go and you should stay with me. But instead, you don't invite me and you just go. She let out a short, humorless laugh, fiddling with the ring on her finger. Jason, Megan is my best friend, then convince her to have the party somewhere else. It doesn't matter now. I'm going, end of story. Jason pressed his lips together. His mind was spinning between frustration and the growing feeling that this conversation was heading someplace final. He took a deep breath and folded his arms. Okay. And when do you plan on inviting me? Rachel raised an eyebrow. Do you want to go? Jason chuckled, shaking his head. Is that an invitation? She watched him for a moment, then repeated, impatiently, do you want to go? He ran his tongue across his teeth, leaning on the table. You should be inviting me. You should be saying, come with me, let's have fun, let's spend the evening together at a party. But no. Do you want to go? Look, he tossed his napkin on the table and leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. Rachel sighed heavily, as if exhausted by the conversation. Jason, I'm not asking for your permission. I know. That's obvious. You've made your decision. Silence lingered over the table. The waiter walked by but sensed the tension and quickly changed direction. Rachel picked up her phone again, avoiding eye contact. Jason knew the conversation was over. But what hurt the most was realizing their marriage might be over, too. Rachel stood up slowly, grabbed her purse, and gave Jason one last look. He remained seated, arms crossed, his eyes on her, maybe waiting, hoping, for her to change her mind. But she didn't. Without another word, she picked up her phone and walked out of the restaurant. The clicking of her boots echoed on the wooden floor, each step confirming what he already knew. She left without looking back. Jason felt an emptiness grow inside him. He didn't run after her, didn't call her name. He just watched through the window as she got into a taxi. The car pulled away and disappeared around the corner. And there he was. Alone. The waiter approached quietly and cleared his throat. Would you like the check, sir? Jason just nodded. He wasn't sure why he was still there. The dinner, the conversation, it all felt like it had happened hours ago. The restaurant was still the same, clinking silverware, distant laughter, couples talking as if the world were a safe, predictable place. But for him, something had changed. He paid and left. The night air was cool, but Jason felt suffocated. He needed to drive, to feel the asphalt under the tires, to see the city lights passing by fast enough to distract his mind. But when he got into the car, he realized he had nowhere to go. Rachel was at a party, at Eric's house. And where was he? Jason didn't want to go home. The thought of sitting on the couch, staring at his phone and seeing no messages from her felt unbearable. He knew she might send him some casual text later, something like, I got here fine, or, the party's great, as if nothing had happened, as if their dinner hadn't ended that way. And he was tired of it. So instead of going home, Jason just drove aimlessly. The illuminated streets looked like a blur of glowing spots as he passed by bars, restaurants, and groups of people laughing on sidewalks. People who, unlike him, seemed to know exactly where they wanted to be. Then he stopped. It was a small corner bar, discreet. A red neon sign glowed with the place's name, and a group of friends chatted happily out front. Jason usually wasn't the type to go out alone, much less to a bar, but something about that night called for him to do things differently. He needed anything that would keep him from thinking. He parked and went in. The smell of wood and alcohol filled his lungs. The lights were dim and the place felt cozy, but he didn't pay much attention to details. He just walked up to the counter and ordered whiskey. And there, staring at the ice swirling in his glass, he realized that for the first time in a long while, he wasn't waiting for Rachel. He was there for himself. And he didn't know what that meant yet. But maybe it was the start of something new. The first sip burned his throat a little, but he didn't mind. The physical discomfort was better than the suffocating knot growing in his chest. The way she left without hesitation, without looking back. As if nothing he said mattered. As if he were just an obstacle in the night she had planned. Jason took out his phone and unlocked the screen. No messages. He let out a humorless laugh. Of course there were no messages. Rachel wouldn't text him now. She was too busy enjoying a party that, according to her, didn't mean anything. Surrounded by friends, laughing, drinking, while he sat there alone, drinking a whiskey he wasn't even sure he wanted. But he did want it. He wanted to feel in control of something. Anything. The bartender wiped the counter with a cloth, and Jason raised his glass slightly. Another. The man just nodded and reached for the bottle. Jason looked around. He wasn't the only one there alone. Other people sat at the bar, lost in their own thoughts. Some were typing on their phones, others just stared at the drinks in front of them, like they were waiting for the alcohol to dissolve something inside them. That's when he noticed her. She was 3 seats to his left, holding a martini, her finger slowly circling the rim of the glass as she gazed off into space. Dark hair fell over her shoulders, and she wore a simple black dress, nothing over the top, but still elegant. For a moment, Jason wondered if she was also waiting on a message that would never come. He wasn't the type to strike up conversations with strangers in bars, but something about that night pushed him to act differently. Maybe it was the drink, maybe it was the need to prove to himself that the world didn't revolve around Rachel. He turned slightly and, without thinking too hard, said, "Are you drinking to forget something too?" She looked away from her glass and locked eyes with Jason. She seemed surprised, but not bothered. Her look sized him up for a moment before she answered. "Not to forget. To accept." Jason raised an eyebrow. "And is it working?" She gave a small smile, but there was a hint of sadness in it. "I don't know yet." Jason let out a brief laugh and lifted his glass. "Well, at least you have a better plan than I do." She raised her martini in a quiet toast. "And what's your plan?" Jason thought for a moment, but couldn't find an answer that made sense. "I'm still figuring it out." She nodded, like she understood exactly what he meant. "I guess we all are." The bartender set down a fresh drink in front of him, and Jason turned back to her. "Jason." She looked at him for a second before replying. "Lauren." The night went on, people came and went, and Jason realized that for the first time since Rachel had left in that taxi, he wasn't thinking about her anymore. Jason watched the ice swirl in his glass, noticing how the cubes danced in the amber liquid, reflecting the bar's dim light. His conversation with Lauren flowed more easily than he would have expected. She didn't ask any invasive questions, she didn't try to fill uncomfortable silences. She was just a calm presence, someone who made him feel a little less lost that night. "Do you come here often?" he asked, more to keep the conversation going than out of real curiosity. Lauren gave a slight smile, twirling the olive in her martini. No. I wasn't even supposed to be here tonight. So why are you here? She sighed softly. Let's say I needed somewhere I could breathe. Jason nodded. He understood perfectly. Looks like we have that in common. Lauren raised her glass in another silent toast. Jason clinked his glass with hers, but before he could take a sip, his phone buzzed in his pocket. He hesitated. Part of him didn't want to look. But another part, the one still struggling to ignore the night Rachel was having, made him pick up the phone and check the screen. It was a message from a friend. Man, why didn't you come? I need to tell you, Jason frowned, his heart beating a little faster. The phone buzzed again with the rest of the message. I saw your wife go upstairs and into a room, and then Eric went in right after her. Jason felt his blood turn to ice. All the noise in the bar faded into the background. He read the text again, hoping to find something in it that would ease his mind. Then the phone buzzed once more. They stayed there about 30 minutes. I don't know, man, something's up. 30 minutes. Jason felt a crushing weight in his chest, like he'd been punched. His first instinct was denial. He wanted to believe his friend was mistaken, that there was some reasonable explanation, that Rachel would never do that. But then memories of the evening flashed through his mind. Rachel ignoring him at dinner. Rachel getting in a taxi without looking back. Rachel not inviting him to the party. Jason felt anger burn inside him, hotter than the liquor he'd been drinking. For a moment, he thought of responding, asking for details. But what would that change? He already knew the answer. Rachel had made her choice. She hadn't just chosen to go. She chose to hide it from him. She chose to distance herself, to ignore any doubt about what really mattered to her. Jason set his phone on the bar and let out a short, humorless laugh. Lauren leaned in a little, studying his expression. Is something wrong? Jason downed the rest of his whiskey and set the glass on the cold, wooden counter. Actually, he took a deep breath, feeling a strange sense of relief mixed with something new, something final. For the first time in a long while, no. And that was when Jason realized something inside him had changed forever. Rachel came home to find the house silent. There were no lights on, no TV sounds, nothing to indicate Jason was there. For a moment, she felt a knot in her chest. She dropped her purse on the couch and picked up her phone. He wasn't around. She called. The phone rang a few times before he answered. I'll be there in 10 minutes. He hung up before she could respond. Rachel walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge for no reason, then closed it. She tried to convince herself that the uneasy feeling she had was just tiredness, but she knew the truth. She knew this conversation was coming. She just didn't know how it would end. A few minutes later, the sound of the key in the lock made her heart race. Jason came in, too calm, and that bothered her. He hung his jacket on a chair, like there was no rush. Where were you? Rachel asked, folding her arms. He looked at her for a moment before answering. Drinking. Drinking? Trying to figure out, he went on, pouring himself a glass of water, why you went into a bedroom at the party, and Eric went in right after you. You stayed there for 30 minutes. Rachel blinked a few times, feeling her stomach turn. What do you mean? That didn't happen. Jason let out a short, disbelieving laugh. Yes, it did. My friend saw you and told me. She looked away for a second before shaking her head. Okay, I went in. But we only talked. Jason calmly set his glass on the counter and turned to her. Why couldn't you talk in front of everyone? Outside, at the party? Did you really need to go upstairs with the door closed? Rachel opened her mouth, but no explanation came out. Deep down, she knew there was nothing she could say that he would accept. Silence settled between them. He sighed. Rachel, you made your choice. And I've made mine. Her eyes widened slightly. What do you mean? He took his time before answering. I mean I want a divorce. No fighting, just for both of us to go our separate ways. And if you want, you can go back to your ex's bedroom. No. Rachel took a step forward and grabbed his arm. Jason, I love you. We only talked, I swear. He glanced at her hand on his arm. It's decided. She saw it in his eyes. There was weight there, but no doubt. No room to negotiate. Their marriage was over. The following weeks passed in a blur. They turned in the keys to their rental place, and the divorce went through without much hassle. Jason got a smaller apartment, closer to work, and began rebuilding his life. Lauren was part of this new phase. With her, everything felt simpler than it ever had with Rachel. Their conversations flowed naturally, the silences weren't heavy, and Jason noticed something surprising: he was happy. Truly happy. Months went by. After the separation, Rachel got back together with Eric. They had a rough history. Their marriage ended years before because Eric cheated on her, and soon after, she met Jason and they ended up getting married. Back with her ex-husband, Rachel listened to Eric promise that everything would be different this time. He claimed he'd changed, that he understood her value, that he wouldn't repeat the same mistakes. Maybe because she was lonely or just hopeful, Rachel wanted to believe him. But the truth soon became clear, and when it did, it hit hard. He cheated on her again. The same story, the same pain. Only this time, there was no Jason waiting for her at the end of it. Frustrated and regretful, Rachel tried to go back to Jason, but each attempt was met with silence. Her calls went unanswered, her messages ignored. For the first time, she realized that, unlike before, he wasn't there waiting for her. Jason had moved on, and there was no turning back. One evening, while they were on the couch watching a movie, Lauren noticed his phone vibrating. She's persistent, she commented with a soft smile. Want me to answer? Jason, without taking his eyes off the TV, just said, yes. Lauren slid her finger across the screen and answered. Hello? Rachel was silent for a second before asking, who is this? Can I help you? Lauren asked calmly. Is this Jason's phone? Yes, he's in the shower. I'm his girlfriend. Again, can I help you with something? Silence on the other end lasted a few seconds. Then the call ended. Lauren handed the phone back to Jason, who didn't even look at the screen. He just kept watching the movie like nothing happened. A few days later, Rachel sent him a message. I'm sorry. I was a fool. I hope you're happy. Jason read it. He took a deep breath. And he replied. Yes, I'm happy. Honestly, I didn't even know what happiness was before. Thank you for leaving. Please don't contact me again. Then he blocked her number. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.